Most people know Taiwan because of modern geopolitics, but centuries before China and Taiwan became global headlines, a tiny European nation ruled the island. For 38 years, Taiwan was a Dutch colony, until one legendary commander changed history forever. Long before foreign empires drew maps of its coastline, Taiwan was far from an empty wilderness. For thousands of years, the island served as the cradle of the Austronesian expansion. Organized chiefdoms like the Saraya, Matau, and Favorlang thrived across the western plains. These were not isolated communities, but structured societies built on agriculture, complex rituals, and active maritime networks. They cultivated rice, fished the coasts, and harvested deer hides. Long before European fleets arrived, these indigenous peoples traded pelts with Chinese and Japanese merchants. Taiwan sat directly at the intersection of East Asia's most lucrative trade routes, linking mainland China, Japan, and the Spanish Philippines. In 1542, Portuguese sailors passing through the strait caught sight of the island's emerald cliffs and recorded it on their charts as Ilha Formosa, the beautiful island. The name stuck, turning this strategic crossroads into a magnet for foreign ambition. The real question was, which global empire would strike first to claim it? In 1624, the Dutch East India Company, VOC, made its move. Looking for a stronghold to dominate trade routes between China and Japan, Dutch ships dropped anchor at the sandy peninsula of Taiwan. They did not just build a temporary outpost, they constructed Fort Zeelandia, a massive brick and stone stronghold designed to anchor their permanent control. This fort became a military headquarters, an administrative hub, and a commercial toll booth. From this base, the Dutch transformed the island into a highly efficient extraction machine. They turned the native deer hunting trade into a massive export business, shipping over 70,000 deer hides annually to Japan to make samurai armor. Then, they cleared the western lowlands for sugarcane, importing thousands of Chinese laborers to plant, harvest, and refine sugar for markets as far away as Persia and Europe. The VOC had built a highly profitable commercial empire on a once contested coast. Behind the walls of Fort Zeelandia, the Dutch had to govern a fragile human landscape. In 1627, missionary Georgius Candidius arrived to convert the Saraya, followed by Robertus Junius, who baptized over 5,000 adults and created the Romanized Sinkang manuscripts, the island's first written script. But conversion went hand in hand with control. Through the annual Landag assemblies, Governor Hans Putmans handed out silver-tipped staffs of office to local chiefs, demanding tribute and obedience in exchange for protection. Meanwhile, thousands of Han Chinese migrants poured into the lowlands, creating a volatile demographic mix. The Dutch relied on local tax farmers to squeeze revenue from these fields and forests. It was an uneasy peace, built not on loyalty, but on a delicate, coercive system of survival that could snap at any moment. On August 27, 1624, the very year the Dutch arrived in Taiwan, a boy was born in Hirado, Japan, who would grow up to shatter their empire. His name was Zheng Chenggong, known to the West as Koxinga. The son of a Chinese merchant pirate and a Japanese mother, he grew into a powerful military commander and a fierce loyalist to the fallen Ming dynasty. When the Manchus swept south to establish the Qing dynasty, Koxinga fought back, staging a fierce resistance from coastal bases on the Chinese mainland. But as Qing forces tightened their grip, his strongholds at Xiamen and the Pescadores collapsed. Left with few options, he needed a secure, defensible base To regroup and feed his army of 25,000 veteran soldiers, he looked across the strait. Taiwan possessed the agricultural fields, natural resources, and geographic barriers he required. The island was valuable to him for the exact reasons it was valuable to the Dutch East India Company. By targeting this Dutch colony, Koxinga turned a profitable trading outpost into a battleground, shifting the struggle from a corporate success story to a high-stakes war of survival. On March 30th, 1661, Koxinga's fleet of hundreds of war junks slipped through the shallow waters of Luermen. 25,000 veteran soldiers poured onto the beaches of Tainan, completely bypassing the deep water channels the Dutch expected them to use. Within hours, the colonial capital was severed in two, isolating the outposts. Governor Frederick Coyet watched from the high ramparts of Fort Zeelandia as the surrounding waters filled with enemy sails. The initial Dutch military response was swift, but proved catastrophic. In April, General Thomas Pedel led 250 Dutch sharpshooters in an attempt to drive the invaders back. They were quickly outflanked by Koxinga's general, Chen Zi, whose forces used a pincer movement to decimate the elite Dutch column, leaving few survivors. With Fort Provincia falling shortly after, Coyet consolidated his remaining 1,700 soldiers and civilians behind the thick basalt walls of Zeelandia. The siege became a slow, systematic strangling of the colony. Koxinga's forces built extensive earthworks, dug siege trenches, and positioned heavy artillery on the heights of nearby Utrecht Hill, aiming directly at the heart of the Star Fort. Inside the walls, the atmosphere turned toxic. By December, the warehouse ledgers told a bleak story. Rice stocks had plummeted from 8,000 piculs to less than 1,000. Fresh water was rationed to a few drops a day, while dysentery and scurvy swept through the crowded, unsanitary barracks, killing dozens of soldiers every week. Desperate messages reached the VOC headquarters in Batavia, prompting the dispatch of 2 relief squadrons under commanders Jan van der Laan and Jacob Cow. But the shifting winter monsoons, treacherous shallow reefs, and an unyielding maritime blockade prevented the reinforcements from ever reaching the harbor. The trapped defenders watched from the bastions as their last hopes of rescue retreated into the open ocean. For 9 agonizing months, the garrison held out under constant bombardment and rotting conditions. On February 1st, 1662, with his men starving, disease rampant, and his outer defenses crumbling, Frederick Coyet signed the terms of capitulation. The red and white VOC flag was lowered, ending 38 years of Dutch rule on Taiwan. On February 1st, 1662, the surviving Dutch garrison marched out of Fort Zeelandia with their personal weapons, boarding the ships bound for Batavia. Behind them, they left coastal plains fundamentally reshaped by nearly 4 decades of global trade. Koxinga inherited far more than a simple stone fortress. He took control of an island already developed into an agricultural and commercial powerhouse. The vast sugarcane fields, the lucrative deerskin networks, and the thousands of Chinese laborers who worked them were now under his absolute authority. Renaming the territory Tungning, Koxinga established his new capital in Tainan, converting a corporate outpost into a militarized kingdom. The conquest was complete, forcing Koxinga to shift from a rebel commander to a sovereign ruler. His victory swept away 38 years of Dutch rule, permanently setting Taiwan on a different course. The red bricks of Fort Zeelandia still stand in Tainan, anchoring the physical memory of this global collision. While the Dutch left the island over 3 centuries ago, their material footprint remains embedded in the streets, old well systems, and stone foundations. This 38-year episode did not just fade into history. It permanently connected Taiwan to international trade networks and initiated waves of migration that defined its modern demographic makeup. By resisting European colonial expansion, this conflict became a blueprint for regional resistance, shaping how the island would face centuries of competing empires, identity struggles, and geopolitical rivalries. Private trading companies and short-lived kingdoms eventually disappeared into the quiet of the past, but the fall of Dutch Taiwan permanently redrew the power balance of an entire ocean. Today, the tides of the Taiwan Strait wash over buried ruins. Empires can disappear quietly, but this sudden collapse permanently redrew the map of East Asia, shaping the very geopolitical fault lines we watch today. What do you think? Share your thoughts below.